Do you think the average Chinese person is living better off than the average American? No, definitely not. I would say that they are more resistant to price shocks than we are. Their economy is more resistant to disruptions in trade because they produce more locally. And their currency is they're capable of allowing it to be devalued a bit without as much discomfort. I don't really know. The average Chinese person in a major metro area is probably on par with an American in a major metro area. To what extent could we determine that, I guess? You know, I know you can compare GDP per capita or like the CPI or whatever, but like what would you actually do to try to determine that? Like how easily can a person pay for rent and food and what have you? PPP? Maybe. Keep in mind though, there are lots of Chinese people who do not live in their, you know, fancy-pantsy economies. In 2022, the IMF judged the Chinese economy in purchasing power parity terms to be 23% larger than America. Okay, but what about, like, the per capita? This would take a while to look into. Half of China is on the level of people in Appalachia. I guess I just wonder, like, how much of it would be determined by housing prices as well. I also don't know, do they have socialized medicine in China? Probably they don't have anything like the NHS, I imagine, but to some extent they have probably something, I mean, better than us. Probably depends on your district. I don't know how like federalized that system is. It's extremely cheap from my understanding. I mean, keep in mind, like the only reason everything in America is so expensive is because private equity has like sucked the life out of everything, you know? It's like it doesn't have to be. If you got rid of that like administrative and speculative bloat on top of the American pharmaceutical industry, our hospitals, everything, it'd be pretty dang cheap here too. Credit Suisse found China's median wealth outpaced Europe's in its 2021 Global Wealth Report. The average Chinese citizen has a wealth of $26,000, 26,700, around $60 more than the average European. That is exceptional. Chinese wealth has surged in the past 2 decades, with median wealth per adult growing more than eightfold in 2 decades. Man, it's tough to tell because we don't have perfect information on what goes on in China. Like the government, it's some people say they overstate their GDP. I think GDP is fake anyway, so I don't. I'm not really engaging in that discourse. I guess I think it's more a matter of like, in a practical sense, how much can the average Chinese citizen afford in their day to day? Because the average Chinese citizen might have less money than the average American citizen, even after you like equalize everything out, right? But it's possible that they're able to meet their material needs way easier, right? Like if the average American, let's equalize everything. If the average American makes $60,000 a year, but then they spend like $45,000 a year rent, food, the necessities, transportation, whatever, like the basic necessities, leaving them $15,000 a year for fun, for luxury or whatever. But then every time you go out to a restaurant, because of very, very high commercial real estate prices and rent, a restaurant like a meal for two is like $120. Maybe that $15,000 a year just doesn't go that far, right? Whereas over in China, maybe they make half that on average, but they relatively easily take care of their rent, of their groceries, and they can do a lot of stuff for cheap. This is one of the main reasons, by the way, why everyone wants to punch their own ticket over here in the United States. It's impossible to go outside and do anything for fun that isn't insanely expensive. Like, okay, yeah, you can go on a walk, you can go to parks, of course. These are classics, they're always good, okay? But like, I really do think fundamentally that a necessary part of the human experience, and I mean this sincerely, I'm not like overstating it, I guess. You need to be able to walk to a cafe and get a coffee and a bakery treat. And the fact that doing that in America, even at a low quality chain restaurant, is going to be like $10 is insane. Like, you need to be able to do that for much less than that, basically. Great outfit. Thank you. I appreciate that. This is also one of the reasons, by the way, why the Chinese are not as concerned about the fact that their government isn't democratic. If the median wealth per adult octupled in 20 years over here in America, Like, I'll put it this way, okay? Americans threw away our democracy. 50% of Americans threw away our democracy for literally nothing, for no reason. We threw it away for the privilege of a stock market crash. In China, the government has rewarded their faith and investment with an unprecedented economic miracle, the likes of which has maybe literally never been seen in human history before. So, again, not defending the CCP and their tyrannical behavior, more saying like, you know, people got they got paid out for something. And one looming debt crisis? Sure, but it's not like we don't have that, you know? It's not like we don't have a looming debt crisis as well. Like, we do have serious economic issues as well. Okay, but saying it's not like we don't do this too is shit Tankies used to say about America. I'm not sure what your comparison is meant to illustrate. I'm only saying that, like, the Chinese economic miracle hasn't been built on, like, a debt crisis in a manner unique to that country. Like, lots of developed countries have serious economic issues. I think that China's major issue really is just the population curve not looking very good. Not so much like the debt, you know? Like, the debt's an issue, but, you know. Just look at how many homeless people China has and how many we have. I don't think we have good data on how many homeless people there are in China. I don't think we have good info on that. Is it really a miracle? Yeah. The Chinese economic miracle is like a commonly used term. That's not, I didn't just make that up. Like, it's what happened in China post Deng is insane. Like, it's genuinely, like, it's so big that a lot of economic analysis actually doesn't account for China when looking at stuff like global poverty, because it's like misrepresentative of the global data, you know? It's crazy. A lot of Western economists still don't like it. They still don't like what happened because they hate the fact that China was able to grow and develop so quickly with a lot of state intervention. Like, obviously, it's a free market economy, but it's a free market economy where an authoritarian government gets to press their thumb down on corporations that act against the perceived common interest, not always the actual common interest. Yeah, why they say that China's cheating when they subsidize their businesses or whatever. Well, Europe recovered after World War II pretty well as well. Not even remotely comparable. Europe got a lot of investment from us, and they grew back very slowly compared to what China did. China, in like 30 years, went from being as poor as like a sub-Saharan African country, practically, to being a dominant global economy with a robust middle class. Like, it's genuinely crazy how quickly it happened. Yeah, it's, you know. And they're still considered a developing country. Oh yeah, they still have factories to build over in the east or whatever. No, the west, I mean, not the east. Um, Lots more room to grow. Can the same happen for any poor as dirt country? Probably not. The moment that China exploited isn't going to happen again. Being the global, like, domestic manufacturing base. But you can still do stuff to develop now. It's just China's a very unique situation, very unique case. They're facing the middle income trap. To grow further, they'll need liberalization. I disagree. I think if I was Xi Jinping, you know, or if I had his ear, like, my line, I guess, my thought would be, you have wonderfully exploited the power of capital investment to build out your economy. You need to start, like, nationalizing, you know? Like, you need to start carefully reining in, because you're reaching a point where the average Chinese citizen has, like, a good life. You don't want to risk that on a bubble. You want to lock that in. You want to start to build out institutions that guarantee forever the the sort of economic boons that you've been able to build out. Obviously, easier said than done. That could be done poorly, like, very well. Sorry, I should say that could be easily done poorly. But, you know, also having a democracy would be nice, I guess. That'd be pretty cool, I think, if they were not authoritarian, in my opinion. Life in China is probably not less stressful than life in the US. Cedar Zhao, YouTube. Really depends on who you are. It's a big country. Hold on. No, 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 no. BS, BS. Don't listen to the one who lived there. No, 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 lol. What's up? What's going on, man? What did I do to hurt you? Can't we all just get along? You didn't listen to them, obviously. Yeah, I suppose. I lived in China. Sure, in what way does that contradict what I said? So you've lived in China, that's cool. I tried to help shed some light. What does that have to do with me wanting nationalization? The average person is not okay, they cope. I'm sorry, I'm not saying the average person is okay in China. What I mean to say is they have, through private industrialization, managed to build out a sufficient base domestically, both educationally and industrially, I guess, that they can now begin to cement these gains through state guarantees. You know, like they're not in a position where like you can be like the president of Sudan and you can say, well, we will make education free and guaranteed to everyone, and then you might say, okay, but it's, you know, Sudan. That's not going to happen. Like, you can say that. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? You haven't built the foundation. You haven't built the infrastructure. China has it, at least in most of it. So they could do good work there. Could the Chinese oligarchs ever decide to pull a Russia and ruin the country? It depends if whoever replaces Xi Jinping eventually, right? Could happen. Capital can ruin anything. So you're suggesting state socialism? I mean, I'm a socialist. I'm not sure what you're asking. Well, sorry, got distracted here. There's too much stuff to cover for us to get distracted so easily. Also, I need to pee.